Close your eyes for a second. Actually, wait. If you happen to be driving or operating heavy machinery right now, please definitely keep them open. But I want you to try and summon a very specific sensation. Imagine you are gripping a steering wheel. Your knuckles are absolutely white. You're coming up on a hairpin turn on a mountain pass at night. The tires are screaming, the engine is revving all the way to the red line, and your heart is pounding in your throat. But there's something else. There's a sound, a relentless, high-energy synthesizer beat that isn't just accompanying the drive. It feels like it's actually fueling the engine.
That visceral connection between sound and speed is exactly what we're unpacking today. It is a cultural phenomenon that started with a niche music genre from Europe, collided with a Japanese manga about tofu delivery, and somehow ended up becoming the universal anthem for internet chaos.
We are talking, of course, about Initial D and the wild, high BPM world of Eurobeat. But we aren't just here to review an anime or list off our favorite tracks. We have a fascinating column from MMR, published in September 2025, titled Initial D and the Memory of Speed Crossed by Music. And the mission today is to trace a cultural trajectory, which is a fancy way of saying we're going to figure out how this happened.
Right, because this isn't just pop culture history. It's a story about globalization in a very weird, specific way. It's about how a specific sound traveled from Italy to Japan, got imprinted on a generation of car enthusiasts, and then exploded globally through the internet to become the soundtrack of acceleration for people who might not even have a driver's license.
That is the part that blows my mind. You have this music that screams, drive fast, yet today it's consumed by millions of people sitting in gaming chairs or scrolling TikTok on the subway. So let's unpack this. Our source material calls this the aftermath of the Eurobeat explosion. But to understand the aftermath, we have to understand the explosion itself. Where does this story actually begin? Because Eurobeat didn't just appear out of nowhere in the 90s.
No, not at all. And this is where the genealogy gets fascinating. If we look at the data in the column, we have to go back to the 1970s. You really can't talk about Eurobeat without talking about the disco era, and specifically the work of Giorgio Moroder.
The father of disco.
Yeah.
The man basically invented the sound of the future in the 70s.
Exactly. He was experimenting with synthesized bass lines that laid the groundwork for electronic dance music. But as the 70s turned into the 80s, that sound mutated. You move into the era of Italo disco, artists like Den Haro or Fancy. This was high-energy, synthesizer-heavy pop music coming out of Italy.
Italo disco is interesting because it was very melodramatic, right? It wasn't just dance music. It had these sweeping emotional hooks and often broken English lyrics that somehow made it more charming.
Yes, and that emotional core is crucial. It wasn't just robotic, it was passionate. By the late 80s, this evolved into high NRG and eventually what we know as Eurobeat. But here is the crucial pivot point, the moment the trajectory shifts east. In the 90s, the Japanese label evokes created the Super Eurobeat compilation series.
Oh, I remember seeing those CDs in import shops. They were absolutely everywhere in Japan. They had those neon covers numbered 1, 2, 3, and they went on for years. I think they made over 200 of them.
They were massive. But the explosion, the real cultural ignition, happened in 1998 with the Initial D anime. The column argues that Initial D was the decisive work that imprinted Eurobeat onto Japanese youth. It wasn't just background music anymore, it was the sound of the drift. But there is a really cool concept the author MMR talks about here called the double cycle, or the exit and return.
I love this part of the analysis. It's basically describing a cultural feedback loop, right? Like the music had to leave home to find its identity.
Precisely. So think of it this way. The exit was Initial D acting as a gateway. It took this music, which remember was actually Italian in origin, but curated by Japan, and exported it to Western audiences. For a lot of kids in the US or Europe in the early 2000s, they didn't know what Italo disco was. They didn't know who Dave Rogers was. They just knew this intense music made the car scenes in the anime feel incredible.
Right, so the anime is the vessel. It carries the music out of Japan and introduces it to the rest of the world, packaged with this cool street racing imagery.
Exactly. But then comes the return. In the late 2000s, you have the rise of file sharing, Napster, LimeWire, and then, crucially, YouTube. Western fans took that music, ripped it, remixed it, made Eurobeat drift compilations, and flooded the internet with it. So you have a situation where Japan imported the music style from Europe, contextualized it with anime, and then the West consumed the anime and recirculated music back to the world.
It's ironic, isn't it? Because by the time the West really got hold of it online, the genre's popularity in Italy had largely faded. And even in Japan, it was becoming a niche thing.
That's the key point. The loop preserved the music, Japan kept it on life support through the anime and the para-para dance scene, and then the global internet ensured it would never die. It became detached from its geographic origin and became a purely digital artifact.
Speaking of digital, the environment where this music lived changed dramatically. Initial D is about racing on real roads, the mountain passes of Gunma. You've got the gutter runs, the guardrails, the physical danger. But the source material talks about a shift to the digital mountain pass.
This is a critical evolution in the source's argument. The column points out that while Initial D depicted real roads, the experience of the music shifted into the virtual realm very quickly. Think about the 2000s. You had Initial D arcade stage in every mall. You had Wang and Midnight, and even Gran Turismo had distinct soundtracks that mimicked this vibe.
Oh man, the arcades. I can hear the attract mode screen right now. Get ready to drive. But it's true, in the arcade, the music is much louder than the engine sounds. It's overwhelming.
Eurobeat flowed naturally into those games. And the author makes a very specific point here. The high-speed beat wasn't just background noise, it acted as a catalyst to strengthen the virtual sense of acceleration.
That makes sense. When you're sitting in a plastic arcade cabinet, you don't have G-forces, you don't have the wind in your face, you aren't actually risking your life on a cliff edge. You need something else to trick your brain into feeling speed.
Exactly. The music fills the sensory gap. It provides the adrenaline that the lack of physical motion removes. And this brings us to the modern listener. You mentioned earlier that many people listening today might not drive. The source notes that for the new generation, the speed is experienced through headphones and keyboards, not steering wheels. They are accessing the memory of acceleration without the physical car.
It's speed simulation through audio. It's almost like a sonic placebo effect. You hear the beat, and your heart rate goes up as if you're taking a corner at 100 miles per hour. Were there specific tracks that defined this gaming era?
The source highlights a few that became staples. Dancing by Vicky Vale is a big one. It was used in early race scenes and really set the tone. And then there's Beat of the Rising Sun by Dave Rogers. That track is known for its dramatic development. It builds tension in a way that matches a race perfectly.
Beat of the Rising Sun is interesting because it almost sounds like a rock anthem. It has those heavy guitar riffs mixed with the synths. It's aggressive.
That fusion is characteristic of Dave Rogers. He brought a rock sensibility to electronic dance music, which fit the aggressive nature of street racing perfectly. It wasn't just dance music anymore, it was battle music.
So we go from the arcades to something arguably even bigger and definitely weirder. We have to talk about the meme era, the transition from Tujo, the mountain pass, to TikTok.
Yes. The internet is where Eurobeat found its second or maybe third life.
The column mentions the 2010s as the era where tracks like Deja Vu and Running in the 90s got absorbed into internet culture. I feel like everyone has seen a Deja Vu meme, even if they've never seen a single frame of Initial D. It's basically shorthand for drift now.
It's ubiquitous, and the trajectory here is fascinating. It started with things like YouTube poop and Maddie videos, those chaotic, high-speed fan edits, and moved into short-form content like Vine and eventually TikTok. But the expert analysis in the column points out a strange duality in this era.
A duality, you mean how it's used?
Yes. Eurobeat in the meme era possesses both gags, humor, and seriousness. On one hand, you have a video of a shopping cart spinning out of control in a Walmart parking lot with Deja Vu blasting. It's funny. It's ridiculous.
The source calls it the rhythm of laughter, right? It's slapstick set to music.
Exactly. It's physically funny. But here is the catch. At the same time, the music itself is genuinely high energy and well-produced. The seriousness of the beat is what makes the joke land. If the music was silly or cartoonish, it wouldn't be as funny. It's the contrast between this intense, dramatic racing music and a video of a cat sliding across a hardwood floor that creates the meme.
That's such a good point. It's the intensity that sells the joke. It elevates a mundane slip and fall into a drift event. It treats a minor accident with the same gravity as a championship race.
Precisely. And Running in the 90s by Max Covery, that's another one. That track became the symbol of that 90s feel re-exploding online. It's nostalgic, but it's also frantic. It captures the chaotic energy of the early internet just as well as it captured the energy of downhill race.
So we've got the history, we've got the gaming connection, we've got the memes, but I want to get into the hood. Why does this music actually feel fast? Is there a science to it? The source material has a section called The Anatomy of Speed, and I think we need to deep dive into the technicals here.
We certainly do. It's not magic, it's engineering. The column breaks down the technical elements that trick our brains. First, obviously you have the tempo. Eurobeat generally sits right around 150 to 160 beats per minute, BPM.
Which is fast, but it's not insane. Drum and bass is faster, speedcore is way faster, so it's not just the raw speed that does it.
No, it's the rhythm pattern that drives it. The source describes a very specific kick snare pattern combined with what's called an octave bass. It's a rapid-fire synth bass line. If you hum it, it goes dunda-dunda-dunda.
It sounds like a galloping horse. Or, wait, actually, given the context, it sounds more mechanical than that. It sounds like an idling engine or a piston firing.
That's the exact comparison the author makes. That rolling bass line mimics the mechanical rhythm of an engine at high RPMs. It's relentless forward motion. It doesn't swing, it drives. And then you have the equipment. The source lists the specific gear that created this sound. In the 80s, it was the Roland TR-909 for drums and the Yamaha DX7 for synths.
The DX7 is legendary. It has that very metallic, glassy sound. It's not warm like the analog synths of the 70s. It's sharp. It cuts right through the mix.
Sharp is the key word. In the 90s, they moved to Kai samplers like the MPC-60, and today it's software synths like Serum. But the core DNA remains the same: sharp attacks and mechanical precision. And here is where it gets really interesting. The source uses the word synesthesia.
Ooh, synesthesia. That's when one sense triggers another, right? Like hearing a sound and seeing a color.
In this context, it refers to the crossing of auditory and physical senses. The column visualizes the waveforms of the music and compares them to the physics of drifting. The synchronization of the kick snare hits matches the drift-slip sound of an AE86 or an RX-7 sliding through a corner.
So the music is structurally designed to match the physics of drifting.
In a way, yes. Think about a drift. It's a series of controlled corrections. You slide, you catch grip, you slide again. The sharp attack of the Eurobeat snare cuts through just like the screech of tires catching grip. The rolling bass is the constant roar of the engine maintaining torque. It's not just that the music is fast, it's that the texture of the sound mirrors the mechanical violence of a car being pushed to its limit.
That explains why it feels so wrong to listen to Eurobeat while sitting in traffic. It creates this cognitive dissonance because your body expects the G-force that the music is promising.
It demands movement. It's kinetic energy encoded as audio. If you aren't moving, the music feels restless.
Now, we've talked a lot about the digital side, games, memes, the internet. But the source material makes a point to say that Eurobeat hasn't abandoned the real world completely. There's a section on street culture and the spirit of the run.
Yes, and this is important because it grounds the whole phenomenon. Despite the memes, Eurobeat remains the music of the street. The column mentions that it is still played at late-night meetings on the Shuto Expressway, the famous capital highway in Tokyo, and at drift events worldwide.
That's actually surprising. I would have thought modern car culture would have moved on to funk or trap or dubstep. You hear those a lot in car edits now.
Well, other genres exist there too, absolutely. But Eurobeat acts as a sort of password or a shared language for the community. If you play that music at a meet, you are signaling that you understand the lineage. You are signaling that you respect the racing spirit of the golden era.
It's like a secret handshake, but at 150 BPM, it instantly identifies you as part of the drive.
Exactly. And there is a specific track mentioned that bridges the generations. Night of Fire by Nico.
Oh, classic. That might be the most famous Eurobeat song other than Deja Vu.
The source notes that Night of Fire is unique because it links the para generation. That's the club culture where people did synchronized dancing to Eurobeat with the initial D generation. It's a track that works on the dance floor and on the mountain pass. It shows how versatile this sound of speed actually is.
It's wild to think about a song bridging club dancers in platform boots and street racers in modified Sylvias. Two very different vibes, but united by the same energy.
And that unity is what has allowed the genre to survive for so long. It adapts. It moved from the disco to the car stereo to the arcade cabinet to the smartphone screen. It refuses to stay in one lane.
So bring this all together. We've traced the genealogy from Italy to Japan. We've seen the feedback loop of anime and the internet. We've looked at the tech behind the beat. What is the big takeaway here? What does the author MMR conclude about this whole phenomenon?
The conclusion is quite profound, actually. MMR argues that Eurobeat isn't just a genre name anymore. It functions as a device to preserve speed itself as music.
To preserve speed itself as music. That's a heavy concept.
Think about the world we live in. We are moving toward a future that is increasingly automated. Cars are becoming quieter, smoother, safer, and more disconnected from the road. Electric vehicles are silent. Autonomous driving is on the horizon. The raw, mechanical, vibrating experience of speed is slowly disappearing from daily life.
So even if the internal combustion engine disappears, the feeling of it is encoded in these synth riffs.
Exactly. The source says that even if you were just clicking a Eurobeat Initial D playlist on Spotify while sitting on the train, you are accessing a memory of acceleration. You are inheriting memories of a speed you might never have physically experienced.
That's deep. It's like the music is an archive of adrenaline. It preserves the danger and the excitement in a format that can't be legislated away.
It allows the listener to feel the G-force emotionally, if not physically. The digital mountain pass is always open as long as you have the playlist.
That's a beautiful way to put it. It's not just about the meme of the car drifting. It's about the feeling of freedom and control that the drift represents.
And that is why it endures. Trends come and go, memes die out, but the desire for that rush, that's universal. As long as people want to feel like they're going fast, this music will have a purpose.
So here's my question for you listening right now. Next time you scroll past a video with Deja Vu playing, or you see a clip of an AE86 sliding around a corner, ask yourself, are you just laughing at a meme? Or are you feeling a phantom drift?
Perhaps the music is letting you tap into a legacy of speed that belongs to everyone, whether you have a driver's license or not.
Something to think about the next time you need a little extra horsepower to get through your day. Thanks for diving deep with us.
Keep your engines running.
See you next time.